The second longest river in the United States is becoming a zombie river. For the first time in decades, the Rio Grande is failing to reach the sea, leaving a 700-mile scar of dry sand across the southwest. It's not just a drought, it's a design failure. 150,000 people in Albuquerque and 6 million people downstream are waking up to a reality where the lifeblood of the desert simply stops flowing. Maria Torres stands at the edge of what used to be a river. The cracked bed stretches as far as the eye can see, dust swirling, where, just last year, children skipped stones. She checks her mailbox. Another warning from the city. Fines for watering a lawn can reach $500. In Albuquerque, the rules are strict, but the river is stricter. The Rio Grande, once the spine of the Southwest, now vanishes for miles at a time, leaving neighborhoods, farms, and entire ecosystems gasping for what little remains. But the crisis isn't just visible in the empty channels. Elephant Butte Reservoir, the main water bank for New Mexico and Texas, has dipped below 10% of its usable capacity, barely 180,000 acre-feet, in a basin built to hold over 2 million. On July 14, 2024, the water level hovered around 8%, exposing mudflats and rusted boat docks. For a sense of scale, that is enough water to cover the entire island of Manhattan in a layer 30 feet deep. Now, it is all that stands between 6 million people and the specter of forced rationing. Satellite images from the USGS reveal the extent of the collapse. Segments of the Rio Grande flicker in and out of existence, with over 50 miles of dry riverbed recorded in a single season. The river on the map is a lie, a zombie river, present in law and legend, but absent in reality. Maria's story is not unique. Across New Mexico, residents face penalties for every drop, while upstream, industrial farms and reservoirs hold back water on a scale that dwarfs household use. The crisis is not a drought. It is a system built to break. On July 12, 2022, a USGS gauge near San Marcial recorded zero flow, no measurable water moving through a channel that once carved the valley. That summer, the Rio Grande flickered out for days at a stretch, not just in remote canyons, but across working farmland and city limits. By October 20th, 2024, the main irrigation ditch south of Albuquerque ran dry for 18 consecutive days, an absence not seen in living memory. Farmers walked empty furrows. City crews logged complaints as dust storms replaced morning fog. The river's disappearance, once a rare shock, had become a recurring entry in state water reports. The system's unraveling is now measured in hard timestamps. On September 8, 2025, the San Juan Chama project, the inter-basin pipeline meant to guarantee Albuquerque's survival, delivered just 35% of its promised allocation. That shortfall triggered emergency notices across the city, with water managers forced to tap deeper into already stressed aquifers. Each missed delivery is a signal flare. The legal machinery of the Rio Grande Compact, built for a wet era, is now running on empty. Every new gauge reading, every dry day, pushes the region closer to the edge. The clock of decline is not theoretical. It's a ledger of missing water, logged in federal databases and municipal warnings. The zombie river is not a metaphor. These are official records, each one a deadline passed, each one a warning that the system's collapse is not a matter of distant speculation, but a series of failures happening now, in real time. The Rio Grande Compact, signed in 1938, is a contract built on numbers that no longer exist. Its architects used a decade of unusually wet years, 1928 to 1937, as the baseline for dividing the river. The agreement promised Colorado 1.4 million acre-feet and New Mexico 2.3 million, with the expectation that 790,000 acre-feet would reliably reach Elephant Butte for Texas and New Mexico farmers. But these numbers were never meant for a century of droughts and shrinking snowpacks. The Compact's debit and credit system was supposed to keep the peace. If a state delivered less than its share, it went into the red. If it delivered more, it built up credit. But the math was always fragile. Since ratification, only 4 out of 33 years hit the target for project releases. Most years, the river simply cannot produce what the compact demands. Debits stack up, credits rarely appear, and the legal machinery spins its wheels as the water vanishes. The system is locked into promises made during a wet cycle that is not returned. The result is a permanent deficit, an accounting device that tracks a debt nature cannot repay. The compact's rules remain on paper, but compliance is now mathematically impossible. This is not a drought, it is a legal ghost, haunting every farm, city, and reservoir downstream. 87% of all water pulled from the Rio Grande goes to agriculture. This is not a hidden fact, it's baked into the law. State water rights classifications grant farms priority access, shielding them from the restrictions that hit city dwellers like Maria Torres. While urban residents face fines for watering gardens, industrial farms keep their pumps running, even as riverbeds crack and neighborhoods ration every drop. The legal structure treats irrigation as untouchable, a relic from an era when rivers seemed endless and fields were the backbone of the economy. Luis Vargas, a third-generation farmer south of Belen, stands in his field as sprinklers sweep over rows of alfalfa. His water rights, secured decades ago, allow him to irrigate even during declared emergencies. On paper, the system is fair, first in time, first in right. In reality, it means that when the river runs low, cities and ecosystems are left to scramble for what's left. The contrast is stark. Household conservation campaigns and drought patrols on one side, uninterrupted flows to vast acreages of pecans, chiles, and hay on the other. The rules favor those with the oldest claims, locking in a pattern where the largest users are the last to feel the pain. The Zombie River is not just the result of nature's limits, but of a system calibrated to protect the biggest straws, no matter how empty the glass becomes. Beneath the cracked surface of the Rio Grande Valley, the ground itself is giving way. Insear. Satellite maps reveal a silent disaster. Land in Socorro County is sinking at a rate of 5 inches per year. The cause is invisible, but relentless. 150% more water is being pulled from the aquifer than nature can replace. Every gallon extracted to make up for the missing river leaves a permanent scar, collapsing ancient sand and clay into empty voids. Once the ground sinks, it cannot rise again. Roads buckle, levees crack, and the cost of repair spirals beyond reach. Ellen Rivera, a hydrologist with 3 decades in the field, walks a stretch of dry canal near Belen. She points to a line of cottonwoods, roots exposed, half dead. "We're not just losing water," she says. "We're losing the ground under our feet." The damage is not confined to infrastructure. On August 17, 2024, federal crews airlifted the last surviving Rio Grande silvery minnows from isolated puddles below Albuquerque. The fish, once common across the basin, now survive only through rescue operations. U.S. Fish and Wildlife logs track each flight, plastic bags filled with gasping minnows, loaded into helicopters, ferried upstream to the few remaining wet stretches. The river's collapse is measured in acres lost, inches sunk, and the desperate flight of a species that cannot live without moving water. Carlos Alvarez, a climate analyst for the Bureau of Reclamation, sits before a wall of digital maps, each one a forecast of vanishing snow. The numbers are not abstract. The snowpack feeding the Rio Grande has already dropped 17% compared to late 20th century averages. By 2050, models show a further 28% plunge, enough to erase the river's spring pulse for good. Meanwhile, demand is surging. Population projections for the basin climb by 12% before 2040, even as the resource itself retreats. In Albuquerque, the city's own modeling warns that surface water supplies could fall below 30% of need by the end of this decade. These are not worst-case scenarios. They are the Bureau's baseline. Alvarez points to a map where the river's blue line fades to gray. We're not planning for drought, he says. We're planning for absence. The Rio Grande Compact, the legal ghost that once promised certainty, offers no answers for a future where the river is missing. Lawsuits multiply, but water does not. The system's design assumed abundance. Now, every new forecast extends the deficit. The question is not if the zombie river will fail, but who will run dry first. The question is not if the system will fail, it's how soon the next water war erupts. As the legal ghost of the compact lingers, the zombie river exposes 6 million lives to cascading risk. In this design failure, the crisis isn't coming, it's already here. What would you do next?